Peter. Well, I'm the fill-in because they couldn't find anyone else for the last big breakfast. The last time I was here 2 years ago, I talked of the joys of being employed in a Rogers building and working in a Foster building and having no doubt as to which building I preferred. I won't this time be partisan in a sense, because I don't want to talk to you about anything to do with TV or rest. I want to talk about three things really: jobbing, cycling, tree hugging, and the first point I want to discuss is the impact of architecture on the lives of some of the most deprived people in this. I am the chair of a project which is called the New Horizon Youth Centre, which is a day centre for homeless, vulnerable and often exploited teenagers in the King's Cross area. And our depot is between the British Library. What a lovely building. Good old Wilson. Tremendous. I mean, I thought absurd at the time, but really, with time, it is remarkable. And inside, fantastic. Building clearly built from the inside out. Lovely building between there and Euston Station. Grubby, filthy building. Amazing. How did they ever put it up? But the day centre is a place I worked before I became a hack. And I've actually been on the committee or chair of it. I've been chair for the last 20 years, and I've been on the committee for 40 years. And all those 40 years, it is inhabited completely slum premises. Started off in St Anne's Church in Soho, an absolute dungeon of a place. Doesn't look like a church, St Anne's Church, Soho, but the church across the road at Kingsway. We were on the ground floor on Centre Point, big housing outfit below us. We each had 3 workers. I was one of the 3 workers at New Horizon. Anyway, suffice it to say, we have always settled for a filthy building, a filthy slum, and basically the people that we worked with merely came in off the street to an experience that was only marginally better than what they were enduring in the circumstances in which they were losing. Well, a couple of years back, I was at the centre, and we were having a management meeting, and there was a knock on the door, and a guy was standing there who declared he was the architect of the King's Cross Station project, none other than John McCaslin. And he said, I've been told to come along and see you because we're getting a huge increase in the number of young people who are coming onto the site or are inhabiting areas around the station. There's a lot of sex working, a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol. And I'm told that you work with these sort of people and that maybe you might be interested in moving onto the site. And we almost immediately said we're not remotely interested in moving onto the site. We thought of being in a building site for 10 years did not attract him in any way. He then came into the building and he said, well, this place is completely unfit for purpose. It's a complete disgrace. I don't know how you find it within yourselves to continue employing people here, let alone working here, and let alone even inviting your clients into the place. So we all felt a bit chagrined, or chagrined, and he then subsequently emailed me and said, I have a small family foundation. If you were prepared to take the risk, I'd like to have an RIBA competition. We will advertise for somebody to come up with a project which will not only refurbish but expand your premises. But I said we're in a designated Class 2, preserved housing estate. It's that stucco 1930s estate, which is largely inhabited by Bengali and other exploited workers in the central London area. The Veet House is one of the big ones there. And we're part of the facade on Charlton Street. And there's no way you can fiddle about with it. He said, don't you worry, we'll sort that. And sure enough, he got an RIBA competition going. And 70 architects put in proposals. The wonderful Ed Jones was one of the architects who came forward to judge the people who'd gone in, and we found a guy, a chap called Adam Khan, and his proposal was absolutely incredible. He had done an amazing amount of observation in the centre, seeing how people used it, what their needs were, laundrettes, showers, all the other things that homeless people might probably want. And he developed this blueprint, and that was that. But we had no money. And just at that moment, the government announced a scheme called my place, which was really for rather less deprived areas to build sporting facilities and recreation areas and this and the other. We got in just in under the wire. I think we were the most deprived project to get in, and we got a £2 million grant. And we only got it because McCaslin had told us to go ahead and just get a plan together, get planning permission, have it all dressed up, and be ready to go when the money appeared. And it did. And we then got private sector funding that kicked in. The moment we had £2 million, it was very easy to grow another $500,000, very easy, remarkable. Far easier to get capital funding than it is to get revenue funding. That's an eternal struggle, but all the capital funding came in. Indeed, we got a surfeit of money. One wouldn't want to say that, but we did. And 3 months ago, Sarah Brown, then the wife of the Prime Minister, opened the centre, and it's now been going for 3 months. Well, the point of this story is that the transformation in the work we're doing is absolutely beyond anything that I've had, as I say, 40 years exposure to it, beyond anything I could ever imagine. There are computer classes, there are people who want to come in and take classes. We've never had formal educational activities there before, it's just not been possible. There's a dance area, there's music, there is a state-of-the-art performance area with full rigs of lighting and sound and amazing soundproofing so that the rest of the estate isn't damaged by it. He managed to floor some kind of an extension that wasn't visible to the road and build up instead this very large area of expansion. And none of this would have been possible without architects. Architects who were doing more than building, architects who understood the weft and weave of what we were doing and how it would change what we were doing for the better. It's an extraordinary microcosm of what can be achieved, and there are many people in this room who know much more about how these things happen than I do, but that's how it happened with us. And we would never ever have done it without a McCaslin, who's clearly as mad as a pikestaff, coming in and suggesting, I mean, he's at the moment building the iron market in downtown Port-au-Prince in Haiti, pro bono. They've got money from another equally mad man, that Irish fellow who owns a lot of racehorses. Absolutely fantastic. This is the architect as agent of lunacy, in a sense, but also architect who brought about architect, agent of very concise planning, very concise understanding of the project.